What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and today is episode number 27 of my 32 straight days previewing the 32 NFL teams ahead of the 2020 NFL season. If you haven't watched the first 26 episodes, the link to the full playlist is down below in the description, as always. And in today's episode, I will be looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last season was most certainly a disappointment. The Steelers were pegged to be a playoff team by most, but instead, injuries derailed their season, and they finished 8-8. By the way, 8-8 with their roster and the injuries that they dealt with, very solid, I'd say. It could have gone a lot worse. Mike Tomlin, their head coach, probably deserved some more credit than he received, maybe some Coach of the Year votes, given the situation he was dealt with. But that's neither here nor there. The injury that probably hurt this team the most was Ben Roethlisberger, their franchise quarterback. He went down in week 2, needing season-ending Tommy John surgery or Tommy John-like surgery. I don't know if it was exactly Tommy John, but it was around that same area in your elbow, the Tommy John ligament. That's not what it's called, but that's the ligament that you get surgery on, like for a lot of Major League Baseball pitchers. I mean, Roethlisberger, the guy played baseball when he was younger. He's played many, many years in the NFL, 15 seasons since he was drafted in 2004. So he's thrown a lot in his career. So that elbow of his, it's got to be worn out by this point. So this was almost basically inevitable. And now he comes back to a roster that hopefully is healthier around him. I think the Steelers definitely need to bolster their backup position. Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges did not necessarily carry this team. It was more so their defense. If anything, they hurt this team's chances of making the playoffs. I think Mason Rudolph, honestly, is overrated and should not have a job in the NFL. He was starting games when last season Cam Newton, although hurt, and Colin Kaepernick were not starting. So there were rumors of Cam Newton going to Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's now in New England. Colin Kaepernick, I think the Steelers should bring him in. Personally, I think Mike Tomlin is a perfect head coach for Kaepernick, given his outward spokenness, I guess you could say, towards various social justice issues. And I think Mike Tomlin would be a big supporter of Kaepernick while also allowing him to play if Roethlisberger were to go down with injury. So that I definitely think that's a possibility. We'll see if Roethlisberger gets hurt, what they do. Because there are also some other free agent quarterbacks out there, like a Blake Bortles type. So who knows? The Steelers should definitely consider picking up one sooner rather than later in terms of a backup quarterback, because injuries, you just never know. To their top, it's just, you can't be too cautious, I would say. Injuries to their top two offensive weapons in JuJu Smith-Schuster and James Conner did not help either, as the two played in 12 and 10 games respectively. All three of those guys, Roethlisberger, Smith-Schuster, and Conner, are back and healthy for the 2020 season. There were rumors of James Conner opting out of next season, or this coming season, because of his past with cancer in regards to COVID-19 and the risks that he might run of contracting the virus. But he has said he will play. So you have that offensive core three of Roethlisberger, Smith-Schuster, and Conner. They added Eric Ebron at tight end. They still have Deontay Johnson, James Washington, and Jalen Samuels, all of whom look to improve on their solid 2019 seasons. So if I were a stockholder, I guess you could say, in NFL football teams and NFL football offenses and defenses, I'd be buying a little bit of stock in the Steelers offense simply because everyone's coming back and they look to be better than where they were, say, halfway through last season, I would say. The defense is this team's bread and butter, though, and it has been, for the most part, ever since Mike Tomlin took over as head coach back in 2007. They traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick in the middle of last season from Miami, and has worked out really well for this team. They paired him with Joe Hayden and Terrell Edmunds in the secondary and has taken that group to another level. There was consideration for Fitzpatrick winning Defensive Player of the Year last season. Obviously, he did not, but he's a shutdown center fielder at safety. Just someone where you just plug him into the field and don't have to worry about so much. The front seven is one of the better ones in the entire NFL, led by TJ Watt, who is quickly approaching superstardom in what will be his fourth season in 2020. Watt plays alongside guys like Bud Dupree, Cameron Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and Devin Bush. All this resulted in a defense that was top 5 in fewest total yards allowed per game and third in fewest passing yards allowed per game in 2019. If the offense can get back to the level they are capable of playing at, and the defense can continue its dominance, the odds are that the Steelers will make the playoffs. Plain and simple. There's a chance, given the fact that the AFC does look to be improved, but I wouldn't be too surprised. Looking at the full schedule, which will be down below, by the way, in the description with my win-loss projections, I do have the Steelers missing the playoffs. I'll be totally honest. But that doesn't mean they can't. There are some games that I have them losing that they could definitely win, and vice versa. So we'll go through it real quick. Week 1 at the Giants. I mean, first week of the year, we'll see how Ben Roethlisberger holds up in that one. But I have them winning that one. I also have them winning Week 2 versus the Broncos at home. It's just one of those things where I think the veteran experience of the Steelers will bode well. If that defense starts out fast in Pittsburgh, they could definitely give Drew Lock and that Broncos offense some headaches. Weeks 3 and 4 and 5 versus the Texans, Titans, and Eagles. I think those are all losses for the Steelers, just simply because those teams all project to be better than Pittsburgh this year. Week 6 versus the Browns. I actually have the Steelers splitting all their division games, so going 3 and 3 against the Browns, Ravens, and Bengals. So something definitely to watch out for there. But this Week 6, I have the Steelers winning at home against Cleveland. This game, I think, will be very interesting, to say the least. Week 7 at Baltimore. The Ravens, I mean, they're the top dogs. And I think the Steelers, they could probably win this one on the road. That would be huge for the division, especially given the fact that the Browns and the Ravens look to be better than the Steelers this year. So a win here against Baltimore could be huge. Then they enter their bye week, Week 8. They actually start off pretty well. They have them entering their bye week 4 and 3, very solid, setting themselves up nicely for a possible run late in the year. Then they come out of their bye, however. They lose 3 of their first 4 games, weeks 9 through 12, against Dallas, Cincinnati, and Baltimore, weeks 9, 10, and 12. They win week 11 against Jacksonville. The Jaguars project to be horrible, in my opinion, this year, so solid win there. But that Cincinnati game, week 10, that's one of those games where I'm like, okay, they could definitely win that one. I don't know. I can't see them losing to Cincinnati more than once. And this is just one of those things where I just threw the Bengals a bone just because, who knows, maybe the Steelers get caught off guard. That Dallas game shakes them up a little bit. Who knows? Week 13 against the Washington football team, I have the Steelers pulling out a win there so they get back on track. And then their final 4 weeks against Buffalo, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Cleveland, I have them going 2-2, losing to Buffalo and Cleveland, winning against Cincinnati and Indianapolis. Ultimately, finishing the year a respectable, let me do the math real quick, 4-3, 8-8. So not great by any standard, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's better than they were last year, I think. The records will be the same, but I think the Steelers will play much better. The other thing for the Steelers, too, they played in a lot of close games last year. So I'm sure that will happen a lot this year once again. So maybe they come out more on top. It's just the AFC looks to be too good. The Browns and the Ravens in their own division, I think, project to be better than the Steelers. Then you got teams like the Patriots, the Bills, the Colts, the Texans, the Titans, AFC West, the Chiefs, the Broncos, all of which look to be better and will be vying for playoff spots. And there's only 7 to go around. So for the Steelers, it's just going to be really, really tough. 5 games I'm most looking forward to on the schedule. Week 1 versus the Giants. This is a game we'll get to see where Big Ben and the Steelers team stacks up, how this offseason helped them or hurt them. Is Big Ben still good, even though I believe he's 38 at this point? The guy is getting up there in age, and he's just coming off a major injury, so we'll see how he responds early in the year. Week 2 against the Steelers, just a game. You got the Broncos offense with Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Melvin Gordon, etc., etc., etc. And then the Steelers' offense looks to be really solid, as well as both defenses. So this could be a game where it could come down to who makes one final play on either side of the ball. And I'm really excited to watch this one. I'll have this one circled. Week 4 against the Titans. I mean, the Steelers did not do great against the run last season, and Derrick Henry was the league's leading rusher. So watch out for him to have a monster game possibly. But who knows? Maybe the Steelers' defense has improved in the offseason. Week 12 versus the Ravens, a division game. Steelers and Ravens always seem to play tight. I believe this game might be on Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another added bonus. But Ravens, Steelers, always competitive, these two rivals when they go at it. And this could be a game that could be crucial for the division. And finally, Week 17, Steelers at the Browns. I have the Steelers losing this game. But, I mean, this could be a game where the Steelers need to win to make the playoffs. So crazier things have happened. The Steelers could extend the Browns missing the playoff streak, although I had the Browns making the playoffs, so who knows. But Week 17, it will all come down to the wire. Safe to say. But let me know what y'all think down below in the description. Do the Steelers make it back to the playoffs once again? Is Ben Roethlisberger, does he have a few more years in him, or is this maybe his last year, second to last year? And also, should the Steelers move on from JuJu Smith-Schuster and James Conner? That's something I've been pondering all offseason long. JuJu Smith-Schuster, I don't think is a number one wide receiver. I think he's a number two who's forced to play as a number one. I think he needs someone to be the primary guy, similar to how Antonio Brown was. And then James Conner, he's a very good player, but the injuries are slightly concerning. So let me know what y'all think down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Next episode, I'll be looking at the San Francisco 49ers, the reigning NFC champs. So it should be a good one. Until then, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.